Hey everybody, this is Doc Love from singleblackdatingtips.com. You can find me on all social media platforms. And I'm here today with my lovely wife, Michelle, of 4 years. 4 years. Michelle?
Yes, my name is Michelle Larkins, and I am his lovely wife. We've had an amazing journey for these 4 years, and it's just so cool to see my husband, do what he loves, is being a relationship coach and speaker. And we're entrepreneurs. I am a natural hair expert over at MDW, naturalhairservices.com, where I am the originator of MDW Microlocks. And we own a business called Born Hair Products. You can find our organic hair care products made for the entire household for any texture of hair at bornhairproducts.com.
Definitely. And what we're doing today is just allowing you to just come into our living space and just be a fly on the wall for about 30 minutes or so and just listen to us as we talk about relationships, because that's something that we love. As she said, I'm a relationship speaker, relationship coach, and we just love to talk about relationships and love. So one of the things we wanted to talk about today was basically how you have individuals that always like to talk about what they don't want in a relationship. Yeah. They'll go, I don't want a person that's this way, or I don't want a person to do that, or I don't want a person that's into this, or what have you. And basically, they don't understand that the real key to a relationship working is not about what you don't want, but understanding what you do want.
Absolutely.
And one of the things we were talking about earlier as an example is just, if you go to a restaurant, and God forbid there's some restaurants with extensive menus.
Like the Cheesecake Factory.
And you walk in there and you talk about all the things that you don't want on the menu. Yeah. That waiter or waitress is not going to sit there and listen to all of that. They're going to say, I'll come back when you're finished with all of that, because all they want to know is, what do you want? Yes. So that I can go and get a server and get a cook to serve that up for you and deliver it to you. So that's really how the best way relationships work, is really knowing not what you don't want, but what you do want out of a relationship.
Absolutely. And I guess that goes into what things do you need to know that you do want? And I'm really big on therapy, coaching, just basically healing the entire you. And so one of the things that I think that you need to know is basically you need to be emotionally intelligent enough to know what type of childhood trauma or relationship trauma that you have, and then you need to fully understand the relationship and childhood trauma of the person that you're dating. Mm-hmm. Because childhood trauma is going to affect what you want.
Exactly.
Even within your subconscious mind, you may have a history in your childhood of feeling very familiar to some unhealthy, things in your life. Like if you have abandonment issues, and even though it may not be the healthiest thing for you to have abandonment, you're still going to feel comfortable with that. So you need to know what you want. You want to feel safe. You want to feel heard. You want to feel appreciated. Exactly. And so you need to go through a healing process in your own life and find out some of those underlying childhood traumas in the person that you're getting to know and that you're dating, because that's going to affect you, your relationship, and eventually if you get married, it's going to affect your marriage, which if you have children, it's going to affect your children. And we know that when you're thinking about having children, how important it is of what you're teaching and what you're showing them, because they're going to be someone's husband, they're going to be someone's wife, they're going to be someone's spouse. And so I just truly feel like that childhood trauma is something that we need to talk about in full length and depth, not just just be a one conversation of, this what happened in the past, but really get deep down in there and heal those parts of your life, as you're getting to know your person.
And I think a lot of times people don't understand, you were saying earlier how when you're with someone and not understanding that the trauma that you went through or the things that you went through, it really shapes the type of person that you end up being with.
Right.
A lot of people think or don't understand that, hey, if I have childhood traumas that happen to me, then it makes me more susceptible to people that's going to do the same things to
Right.
me in my adult life. And so just understanding those things and knowing that, hey, if I'm going to make sure that I have the best person for me, I have to make sure that I do the healing process or do therapy or do whatever it is that I need to do in order to understand that once I do that, now I'm ridding myself of having that issue be a problem in my adulthood, in my relationship, and in my marriage.
Right.
So just doing that type of work is so important. Another thing, because no, go ahead.
Well,
go
this
ahead.
is what I want to say, is that's why I love like the mission and the work that you do, because what you're doing is you're preventing people from having to go into some type of marriage counseling because of a crisis in your marriage. You know, there's totally nothing wrong with, you know, going to counseling throughout your marriage because we evolved, right? As we go on through life. But what I love about your mission of relationship coaching is that your coaching sets the perfect foundation. It sets the best foundation to flourish in hopefully your potential marriage with this person.
Exactly.
So that you don't, you know, we talk about foundational, you know, issues in the house and different things like that. If you set a really good foundation from the beginning, you don't have to worry about fixing foundational problems, because we know when you have to now start fixing foundational problems, that's going to be a lot harder. It's going to be a lot more challenging. It's going to cost more money. It's going to take more time. When if you do it right the first time at the beginning, when you're setting the foundation, then you're going to have a better journey in your relationship.
Yeah, and setting that foundation is so important, because I think a lot of people don't understand that when you do that work before you enter into the relationship, then it makes that relationship so much easier.
Yes.
It makes everything flow so much better, because honestly speaking, people don't understand a lot of marriages or a lot of relationships fall apart simply because the people haven't done the work that they needed to do on themselves before they enter into the relationship. And when they enter into the relationship, you know, now that person has to deal with your traumas that you're bringing in, as well as their traumas that they're bringing in, and then all of the traumas that you all collected while you're in the relationship.
So true.
So it really is so important to do that work, you know, in the beginning. Do that work on yourself, especially when you have gone into a relationship and things didn't work out like you wanted. That's the perfect time to take the time to say, okay, let me ask myself the questions that I need to ask. You know, what things do I need to work on? What happened in this relationship that I really need to understand so that I don't repeat that situation again. And I have, you know, and then that person, you know, because people don't understand, God is going to bless you with someone better once you do the work. You know, God has to, you know, compliment you with where you are and, you know, your place in relationship. So you're going to get that, you know, that leveling up, so to speak, once you do the work that you need to do, and then that's going to produce the next time a better person for you. So you know, that's
and I totally can say, like, with our marriage, you know, when we reconnected with each other, we had done so much work within ourselves that, you know, when people ask, well, how did you know, one of the ways that I can truly say it has been very easy. It doesn't mean that we don't have different ideas or we may disagree about things, but now we know how to properly communicate. Now we know how to properly, you know, have the emotional intelligence to be able to know how to cool down and then come back to the drawing board and talk things out, you know. But if we didn't have that education, if we didn't have that coaching or that counseling along the way, if we didn't, you know, learn certain things about ourselves, then we could have reconnected with each other and it still may not have worked out.
Definitely.
I feel like, you know, things are easier when you've done the hard work in the beginning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one thing I can say right now is this is a lady that is serious about therapy. She's serious about doing the work and understanding how important it is for you to do that work. So right now, I really want you to know and understand that it's not something to be ashamed about. It's not something to run from. It's something that we really all need, because it's just going to make us a better person and a better individual for ourselves, first of all, and then to be the full person that you need to be for the person you want to be with.
Absolutely.
You know, so definitely. Another thing I wanted to talk about, because I know we talked about emotional intelligence, stuff like that, but I also wanted to talk about investment. And I know that's something that's big on me, but I think a lot of people don't understand that when you are entering into a relationship, you're really making a huge investment into someone else. And I think people don't take that investment seriously, or they don't understand that if you're going to go out here and, you know, let's say you have $5,000, you want to invest in something, then you're going to do the work. You're going to sit up here and say, okay, I'm going to vet this company, or I'm going to vet this stock, or whatever it is. I'm going to make sure that this is the right one for me. And then the other thing about investment that you have to understand is everybody is doing it to get a return later down the road. So understanding that when you're entering into a relationship with someone, or you're talking to someone, this is an investment, a huge investment of your time, of your energy, of your space, of everything that you have and give, that you're giving to someone. So make a wise investment.
Absolutely.
You know, make sure that you're making a wise investment. And if it's not a wise investment, you know, it's okay to pull out. It's okay to say, hey, this is not the best investment for me. Because we all know if it was $5,000 or $10,000 and you didn't feel good about the investment you were making, you're going to pull out of it.
Right. Absolutely. And like that due diligence, you know, having the due diligence of, you know, counting up the costs. You know, everybody wants to invest $5,000 and make $20,000, right? So, you know, you just want to, you want to do that due diligence. If you know that this is a bad deal, you know, you said, you know, on a lot of your videos, and you teach something that I have taken to heart with me, is having that discernment, and then also having that courage to finally say, you know what, this just isn't a good deal. And I think this is a cool person. I think this is a person who's a phenomenal woman or a phenomenal man. But, you know, this is just not my person. This is just not my wife or not my husband. And having that courage to say, you know what, God, I get it. You know, this was the lesson learned. But it's time for me to just move forward and to do the right thing, you know, be mature about the situation and end the relationship. And another thing I think is, like, people think that because the relationship doesn't work, that has to be bad blood, or we have to now be enemies. It's like, no. Like, you can literally, your story could be that I dated this person, they were a great person, they just weren't my person. But they taught me what I needed to learn along the way, so that when I do find my person, or that person is presented to me, I can appreciate that person. And then I have all these life lessons along the way for me to serve them better and for them to serve me better.
Exactly. Now, I got to stop on discernment and courage, because you know
that's your thing.
But I mean, even with that, a lot of times people don't understand. I've heard discernment, because that's very important, you know, being able to know and figure out the things that you need to figure out about the person that you're with. Sometimes, you know, red flags come up, you know, and you have to address that, or you have to recognize, hey, there's some things here that maybe I have to really look at and take into account. But a lot of times, it's great that you are understanding and you discern the issue. But you have to have the courage to make the decision of saying, all the flags are here, all the warning signs are here. I have to make the decision to say, this is where I get off, or this is where I end it. And what people don't realize oftentimes is when they don't make that decision, they could be missing out on someone else, because you're spending time, or you know, making an investment in this, and it's not going anywhere. Some of that could have been invested in something that is going somewhere. So it's great to have discernment, but without courage, you know, so I really feel like courage is just as important as discernment, and being able to say, hey, I know this is not working for me. This is not what I want. And I have to make the decision to leave because there's something better for me.
Exactly. And, you know, some people, they stay in a relationship for 7, 8, 10 years and they say that they, you know, wasted time and it was just a waste and different things like that. But if you had that courage to follow that discernment at that time, then you won't feel like it was a waste.
Yes.
You would have realized that it was a life lesson and you took it. You didn't invest more than you should have invested.
Exactly.
You invested a reasonable amount of time, but you didn't invest so much more that you actually lost the years that you could have children, lost the years that you could have, you know, found the one. So I think that is just such a beautiful illustration of how discernment and courage, you know, is so important when you're making that investment.
Yeah. We've talked often about people that we've encountered that invested so much time and so much energy, and to the point that, you know, they felt used up. They felt like they didn't have much to give, and I'm tired. I don't want to do relationship anymore. And that's where the important part of basically making sure that you invest, of course, but don't invest more than what you can or what you know is good enough. I'll never forget one of the best investment pieces I was ever told was never invest more than you know that you would actually miss if you could not have it again.
That's good.
So it's like, if I know that I have $100 that I can give to you,
right,
and I know that it won't hurt me to do that, fine, invest that. But if I'm investing $10,000 and I know it's going to hurt me, then I'm going to be trying to chase you down, or I'm going to be upset and mad with you because I made this investment and it didn't work out. And like you were saying earlier, that's why a lot of times people are upset with the person, because they're looking at it like, I made this huge investment in you and all of that, and you know, and now I'm getting nothing back because you want to leave.
Yeah.
Well, the thing was, if you knew that, hey, this is the time to start asking the questions you need to ask, and I know that's something that's important to you, is if you know you're investing this much and you're not seeing a return, that's when you need to start asking questions like, okay, this is what I expected. Where are we? What's going to be the situation? Because I'm now at a point or impasse where I might need to take my investment out of this if it's not going to yield me any further return.
Right. And I think that's when we need to really be serious in dating. Like, it's really not a game. Like, I get it. It's like the honeymoon phase and you're liking each other. Y'all going on dates. Y'all having all this fun. But just as much fun as you're having, you need to be having these hard conversations. Because this is the foundation part. Like, this is the time that we're learning about all the things. We don't want to get too deep into something and we didn't ask the important questions. And it just kind of leads me to believe that maybe we're not asking these questions because we don't really want the answer.
Exactly.
Because if we really, really wanted these answers, we know that they're going to be so important to our decision making. We have to ask them, and not just ask questions, but also look at the actions and see if it's aligning with the answers to the questions that we're asking.
Exactly.
You know, it's like, you know, it's all well and good that you are enjoying each other, but it's not just about enjoying each other. Because marriage has a deeper purpose than just enjoyment. You know, so I just wonder sometimes, like, do we really want the answers to these questions? And we should. Especially if, you know, our hearts are involved, and a lot of times children are involved. It's time to really get the answers to these really hard, important questions.
And like you were saying, I know you know, people want to say, oh, maybe I don't want to know the answer to that question. But what is that saying about you? You know, I understand it may not be the answer you want, but it may be the answer you need. You know, so that you can say, okay, I might need to work on this, or I need to evolve in this place, or I need to expand in this place and grow in this place. And that's going to help you, you know, further, you know, when you're going down the line or when you're entering into another relationship, maybe you ask questions that ended this relationship, but it's going to help you in the next relationship, which is going to be a better one for you.
Absolutely.
You know, so that's the thing that a lot of times they don't understand is, you know, asking those questions is getting the information that you need.
Exactly. And having deal breakers, like going in with intentions, you know, but we're talking about what we want versus what we don't want. But you know, when you know what you don't want, really dig into what you do want.
Yeah.
So by asking those questions, that's going to eliminate the person, or if you know matter of factly what you do want. If you know you do want children, and this person is saying, I don't want children.
Right.
Then that's not for you. If you're saying, I do want someone who is emotionally intelligent, but this person does not display any emotional intelligence, that's your answer.
Exactly.
You know, so I think that's so important in understanding what you do want. So focusing in on all those things are going to really save you a lot of time in the middle or the end.
Yeah.
If you go ahead and just not just make an emotional decision, but make a real conscious decision about what you do want.
Exactly. And if you don't know what you want right now, that's when you need to find out what it is
that's when you need to book a session with Dr. Love, the relationship coach, because, you know, the great thing about life is God puts helpers in our path. We're all here to help each other in the thing that we have mastered, or the thing that God has put us here to have full overstanding about. And so we're here to help each other to reach that. And I go back to, that's why I'm so excited about, is that this is the thing that has been your passion and your mission is to help people to do the hard work. This is work that a lot of times we don't know, because maybe we didn't have the examples in our life.
Exactly.
You know, think about how much in families that homes are broken, or they're blended families, or whatever the case may be. There are some situations where people have never even seen their parents together. By the time the children get here, you know, nobody really even knows what a successful marriage looks like, or what a successful relationship that leads to marriage looks like. So how are we supposed to get that relationship education? Right? We have investment education. We have business education. We have all these types of education. So when we don't have the knowledge, or we don't have the experience, we go out and we get that knowledge and experience. And so we do have people like you, and we do have, you know, coaches and counselors and different things like this, helpers that are here to help us, guide us through, to help us uncover what that beautiful relationship looks like.
Definitely. And like we said, we talked about earlier, communication, but not just, because we all hear that all the time. You know, gotta have good communication.
Buzz phrase.
But it is actually communication of actually finding out, okay, how does communication work for you? How do you communicate? How do you need to be communicated to? You know, things of that nature, because oftentimes we don't really understand and get that, okay, we know communication is key, but people have different communication styles. So it's like, okay, if this person has a communication style where when things upset them or make them mad, they get angry and they get irate. That might be something you need to know, because that might not work with your communication style and work with how you want to be communicated to. So asking those questions, doing the hard work, because it is, you know, work. And as someone once said, you can't cheat the work. You know, because if you're cheating the work, you're cheating yourself. Because really, ultimately, it boils down to, this is you. This is your journey. This is where you're trying to go. So all of these things, asking the questions, you know, and discernment, and being able to discern, courage, having the courage to make those decisions, and asking the questions about, how do you communicate? How do you communicate when you're angry? How do you communicate when something bothers you? You know, how do you communicate when you have something important that you need to express? You know, and even though we talked about this earlier, how do you communicate when you have feelings you want to express that may not always be welcomed by some other people?
Correct. I think that is so important. I know sometimes us women, I hate to generalize, so definitely no generalizations here, I'll speak for myself, tend to be very over communicative. You know, there are times that I know that, you know, I want to resolve the issue and I want, you know, to get through it. but maybe right then is not the best time for resolution. Maybe we need a chill down moment, and we need to process how we feel about the situation.
Exactly.
Maybe one person is communicative and the other person isn't communicative.
Right.
And I definitely don't feel like we should just sweep things under the rug. But maybe sometimes we need to take a step back, process, and then now we can communicate when both people are ready.
Yes.
But see, you gotta, like you said, we gotta figure out, okay, what is your communication style?
Yeah.
What works best for me? And then when we're not in heated debate, we can discuss those things. We can say, you know what, so what do you need from me? I just need for you to give me a second so that I can process. So what do you need from me? I just need to know that you heard what I said, and you're willing to put a pin in this and then come back to it.
Exactly.
So that way both people feel heard. Because really, to be quite honest, that's why people have arguments.
Exactly.
A lot of times they're trying to prove their point. The other person's trying to prove their point. One person doesn't feel heard. The other one doesn't feel hurt, and we're just kind of going through a cycle of frustration.
Exactly.
So it's like, okay, somebody needs to get off the ride, the circle ride, and we need to just like process.
Exactly.
But if we don't have that conversation, now the arguments get heated and heated and heated. Now there's profanity, there's cursing, there's disrespect.
Right.
When we don't even need to get there.
Exactly.
So, yeah, communication is key, and this has been amazing.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah. But it's what we do. You know, it's
every day, all day, every day.
I'm trying to tell you. I promise you. And you know, you've been a fly on the wall, so it's all good. But that's the thing that I think a lot of people will learn from, and just be able to enjoy and understand that once you realize how to communicate with your person, it's going to make everything so much easier.
Yes.
You know, it's going to make, you know, you're going to understand, okay, I know why they do this, or I know why that's going on. Really going even back to childhood traumas, because it could have been they communicate the way they communicate because of childhood trauma, or, you know, things that happened in their childhood.
Absolutely.
So understanding one thing leads to you understanding another thing so much better.
Yeah.
And just taking the time to get to know who it is that you're with, you know, discerning those flags that happen, and just doing that work, because the work is so important, but you have to do that work. Absolutely. And no matter what the answers are, the answers are going to help you be the better you that you can be, you know, be the best you that you can be. So it's so important in a relationship that you do that work. Definitely. Yeah. Now, I mean, there's a lot that we can talk about, and a lot more that we can go into, but we wanted to just give you a teaser of all the things that, you know, we just like to discuss when we are by ourselves, you know, on the couch, you know, just talking about what we do. And one of the things, you know, since we're, you know, in the process of just, you know, talking about this, we talked about, and I hopefully some people can follow this, is just how a good relationship or a great relationship that you have with someone else can be. And we were talking about how, you know, really people don't understand that that person that you're with, in a sense, can be your healer. They can be your healing force, or your healing person. We don't realize it, but we all go through things during our daily lives and all of the things that we encounter. And oftentimes we don't understand that the person that we're with, you know, God puts us with that person because, not just because they look good, or, you know, they smell good, or, you know, that the walk, or they're sexy or whatever, but also to be somebody that can be a healer to us, someone that could be a person that when we're going through things, when we're going through the traumas in life and things of that nature, we basically have someone that can touch us in a certain way, or say a certain thing in a certain way, and just basically refocus us and get us back to being the person that we are meant to be, and even a better person, because that person is there to help us to elevate. So I want to give you just a few moments to talk about that, because I know that's something that's important to you as well, okay?
Yes. So I totally agree 100%. You have been a healer to me, and I have been a healer to you. The synergy of us being able to balance each other out is so important.
Yes.
And so I'm so excited about that. We can go on and on, but I know we have to end today.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I just wanted to give you a second to do that because I understand that people may not know or understand how powerful it is to have, a relationship be a healing property to you. But I definitely wanted to talk about that for just a moment, and that's something that we can talk about in our next episode when you come back to us. But again, my name is Doc Love. You can find me on singleblackdatingtips.com, and that's on all platforms. I do relationship speaking and coaching, and like I said, me and my wife Michelle just love to just sit down and talk about relationships. So this is what we naturally do. We would love for you to come back and join us again. So babe, we just happy to invite you in and just thank you for listening to us for a little bit, and we will see you soon, definitely.